not doing it because I'm mad because I heard that the intro music is post-added, and therefore you will not get any enthusiasm at the top of the episode from me ever again.
That's fine.
It's true.
But do you ever get enthusiasm from me throughout any of the episode?
We do when we get sticks with snakes.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Which I have let all of them out of my house. So
Have you?
Yeah, they're gone.
Oh.
Oh, God, damn it. Not today.
Not today, Tiamat. So looking at my notes,
His notes.
July 31st, 2022 is when I wrote this.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
Is that when you recorded it?
I have no idea when we recorded it.
Oh.
That's when I wrote the notes.
Well, I guess we can... are you looking it up?
No, of
To
course.
give you a play-by-play, Nick is opening up his iPhone device,
It
whereas the other two of us have Android
was-
devices.
posted August 3rd of 2022.
So then it would have been July.
Yeah, probably.
So wait, when did you say you were at it? July 24th?
31st.
31st? So yeah, you wrote those probably the day you recorded it then.
Probably. Or the day before.
Cool.
July 31st was a Sunday.
So, yeah. It would have been probably...
We probably played on that Sunday if we posted it on the 3rd.
I don't remember.
Because that would have been 3 days later, so.
With Caleb, we were doing like weekends.
Yep.
Classy.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about?
Session 1.
I guess, no, first we have to...
Session 52.
we have to update on the Charmed Ones
Oh,
debacle.
yes.
Oh, right.
So doing, my weekly research, we found, by that, I mean Google targeting things about Shannon Doherty towards me, found out that her cancer is stage 4, and currently she is selling off most of her assets so she can play... So she can play D&D with us next week. No, she's selling off her assets so she can spend time with her mom, go on vacation, stuff like that. So I guess I'm going to let that rest for now until maybe we hear a different prognosis. But Shannon, if you're listening, you always have a seat at our table.
Yep.
Unless the other two Charmed Ones are here, then we'll have to reschedule. But
Also, Phil said he wanted to buy your panties.
no, never. No. Take backsies.
Jesus.
Wow, Indian giver.
What?
There's so much wrong with what Nick just said.
When is there not, though?
Right? We're canceled.
Yeah, like, I have to tell my wife, I'm like, yeah, Nick's just built different. Just don't listen to what he says. But I guess now that we've hopefully gotten that out of the way, let's talk about episode 1.
Which one got kicked out of the Charms one?
Shannon Doherty.
Okay. That's right.
/ left.
Yeah, she wasn't kicked out per Alyssa Milano. No relation to the cookie.
The cookie fame.
But then the one who plays Piper said, no, actually, she did have a say in it. So I like how we're going to let this rest. And like, all right, let's bring it back. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
In the corner, Shannon Doherty at 5'7"
I mean,
and 147 pounds.
is she 5'7"?
I have no idea.
What were the what was the claymation with famous people wrestling?
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Celebrity Deathmatch.
God, that talk about being wrong. That is...
That's where I
Nick,
learned
you just
all my stuff.
explained everything that we needed to know right there. And look, he turned you down. He's like, all right, we got to quiet Nick a little bit there.
Actually, I turned him up.
Oh,
yeah.
shit. Okay.
No, my older cousin, she got me into that when I was like fucking 8 years old.
I remember watching Celebrity Deathmatch. Yeah.
Okay, she's 5'7" in heels. She's 5'3".
Oh my god. My context for Charms is when I was at the gym and it'd be on the elliptical.
That's
Yep.
why we started talking about
Yes.
this,
Yep.
because you said that it was like a bunch of yous and some old men watching Charmed Ones,
I mean, it was the only thing on. It was that or news. So.
Yeah.
which, now it's got me watching the news on the Charmed Ones. Starting my subreddit. Wow, one of these days we'll start talking about this episode 1. But until then, Stay charmed.
Yeah, session 1 happened 2 years ago.
What's the title?
I don't remember.
Oh my gosh.
Here at the BS Roll, where we are always prepared.
I have my DM notes. That's all I got.
Session 1. Factions, Muggers, and the Lost Bard.
Okay. Yep.
So it first starts off with, they're all asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And we got old M. Scott there having a good old sleep, and he opens his eyes, and the moon's smiling at him. That's
I don't think he technically was asleep yet.
okay. Well, he was in that area.
Getting ready for bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's all I have.
That's not literally what you said. It's just, it goes and talks about basically the moon has like a toothy smile.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's gone. It's some like weird Harry Potter stuff, like the things at the beginning that like just teeny tiny start. And then all of a sudden there's just a cloaked figure with that toothy smile and that awful laugh, which is actually hilarious. I recommend listening to that at 1.75 speed. It is
dear.
terrifying.
I bet.
Also, the intro music is also pretty great at 1.75.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take your consideration.
He's not going to do anything about it.
No.
So I know you said last episode that it had to do kind of with like the Cheshire Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Which Curtis even pointed out
yeah.
in the episode. He's like the Cheshire Cat, and Tim's like, yep.
So shooty, prosciutto, chow tao.
Chateau.
I know what it is. I'm just.
I pronounced it wrong.
That's
every
what
time.
I'm getting at. It was just like different things, and like still in this episode, Mavic still had 3 different names. I'm just like, yep. And then Ryan's like, nailed it.
Well, here was my favorite going into that part 2 with Chateau, is he's like, go and spread about me, and then he's like, knee.
Yeah.
And then Caleb's like, what's the fucking reverse Monty Python's going on here?
Yeah. I can't remember. So was it like Chateau? See, now I want to say like Shoto because I'm from St. Louis and that's a street here. He basically, or they asked for M. Scott Isaacs to plead fealty. I can't remember. Did M. Scott
Yes.
fealty like at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because there was a part where like they lost their powers, and so I was just like,
Well, so in that specific, Curtis's character was like, what if I don't want to? And then his powers go away. And then they came back when he pleaded fealty. But then he also didn't do something that Chateau liked later on. So then he also lost his powers then too. So it was much more hands-on than you would get for a warlock. Also interesting was he didn't plead fealty before he got the powers. He got the powers. And then he came in and was like, hey, I want you to plead fealty to me. Otherwise, you don't get these powers.
yeah, honestly, I mean that's a smart way to do it. You're like, hey, you like what you got?
You give him
huh?
the good drugs
And
first.
take it away. Like, nope, you can't have this. So Tim, like, what did you draw your inspiration? I mean, obviously the Cheshire Cat, but like the rest of it, like what made you think, oh, I want Curtis's character to have this crazy god, and this is where he gets his power? Like, where did that come from? And like, I don't know if all of a sudden this god's gonna show back up and be like, "What's going on, guys? Where's
Maybe.
my buddy at?" But just like what you can give us.
Maybe he'll come back. I mean, Cheshire Cat, chaotic, taking from anything that's chaotic.
You're like,
Willy
I don't
Wonka.
have enough chaotic characters in this campaign,
Right.
So let's add a god that can be chaotic.
100%. And looking at like the Chaos Gods and D&D lore, a little bit of Critical Role Campaign 2, The Traveler, took inspiration from that.
No.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. And just my own goofiness. Like his laughter is definitely like a rip from Mark Hamill's Joker.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Which I
What-
can do an okay impersonation of. So.
Yeah, but it's so upsetting that Mark won't return our emails.
Yeah.
Well, we shouldn't have let Nick send an email because it was little too wild.
It's not my fault that there may have been alleged threats at the end if he didn't reply.
You will fucking do this. And then you signed it for the Empire. Good times. So that's kind of what happened. M. Scott was like, I don't really know, but I'm going to do it anyway. Peer pressure, which I feel like M. Scott very much just gives into the vibe a lot of times.
He also tried to become a drug dealer.
Well, that's what I was alluding to for a later episode. It's like, oh, this kind of goes back to where he's like, wait, this God wants me to carry out its missions? Okay, cool, whatever. Yeah, and then you've got Baby at the Monk Order. What was it called again?
The Hidden Order Cognito.
I think it's Incognito Browser.
It's the Onyx Order of Cognito.
There it was.
Speaking of incognito, Google says they're actually going to start deleting your incognito browser history.
Ooh.
So all you creeps that listen to this podcast, just you wait.
Wikifeet.com.
Yeah, incognito, baby. So it's funny because it kind of plays into like, Baby goes and like the like mentors like flexing their muscles, which is like a very Baby thing. So I was curious, what made you like draw that inspiration? Like, what was like, well, because I don't necessarily think like, I mean, we know Ryan's always talking about flexing his big muscles. But I don't really think that at this part because it was literally next session, I don't think like Ryan had that vibe of like, I'm a flex. So I'm just curious, like, if that was like your intention from the beginning. Is this just going to be an order of a bunch of beef heads?
I think I was just feeling that vibe. I envisioned the kind of Cirques to being just a buff beefcake of a lady. Mm-hmm. So...
that is the greatest. A buff beefcake of a lady.
Uh-huh.
It makes me think of Lady Brienne from Game of Thrones.
Well, in Roll20, they've got the monk that Grog goes and fights, and he's a monk class. And he's also absolutely jacked.
Yeah.
You also called it Roll20.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, I was like Roll20, like what?
Yeah, Roll20, dude.
It's like, oh, you can just like go into the app and just
Critical
start
Role,
fighting.
Oh, what was his name? That monk guy.
It was for Cord.
Korg.
Well, no,
Yep.
Cord was the
deity they worshipped.
was the deity they worshipped.
For
it was
the
like
Cord.
it was like some like Earthshaker Groon or something like
Earthshaker.
Ooh, yeah,
Groon,
something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
man, pulling them deep pulls.
So maybe some inspiration from that. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, those would be either like that kind of style or like a Jackie Chan, Jet Li would be my other choice for monks. So,
Yeah, but
go
like
one or the other.
I think they're more like Fabio, like I'm a model, do what I want, turn my little tail on the catwalk.
I mean, a lot of what I choose from is improv and making it up on the spot.
I've never heard of a DM having to do this before.
Well, part of it is because I don't have it in my notes what she looks like. Maybe I did at some point. Not in these notes.
Fair
So
enough.
let's take a step away from the podcast for a second. And let's talk about the creative mind of Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, just tell us your creative process from start to finish.
That's it.
You just were sitting there and you're like, this one's gonna be buff. Yes.
What it is when he goes into the creative process, he has a very quick absentee seizure where his brain isn't actually running anything, but it just takes a conglomerate of everything on the subject, and then boom, pops out one solidified idea.
So what you're saying is like basically you're Yugi and you get sucked into the shadow realm and you have some old pharaoh that writes this for you.
Pretty much.
Nice.
Little elves pop out too.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. It's probably somewhere buried in my notable NPCs notebook.
I thought you were going to
where's
say
that
your
at?
pancreas.
My pancreas.
Well, that's where all them elves are, making them Keebler cookies.
So, like, I have documents. Like, one is that I'm looking at now is notable NPCs, and it's about 20 pages or so of just person's name, what they're doing, where the city they're from, people that they would run into or you guys would run into, like shopkeepers, everything.
Yeah.
And so it's probably in here. Nope. Definitely just says her title, female half-elf. So probably the buff beefcake lady was just on the spot.
Sure.
This is what she's going to look like.
Fair enough. Cool. So I kind of want to leave this part to Nick to talk about, but it's like the whole like thing with Snee, because literally the only note I wrote is Snee is rusty. So just talk kind of about the beginning of that episode with like Snee and yeah, go.
Well, so obviously in session 0, when they first found me, I was very rusty and weathered and had dicks all over me, and so
And then they picked him up and then they went to go play D&D.
yeah, like, ooh, look at this rusty old toy. Let's go play with that for a while. But so you could definitely tell Tim's idea was, as I would level up, I would become more and more pristine, like I originally was. So going into level 2, for sure, some of the rust, still rusty color, but it wasn't like flaky rusty metallic anymore. It was just kind of a color for it. Eventually, everything goes away, and I
So
get
you got a little WD-40.
yeah, pretty much. Just a little power wash, power.
Nice.
And obviously, I start learning more of my own abilities that mostly homebrewed for the idea that Tim had for me. So like having like little padding on the bottom of my feet so I can be more stealthy. Being able to control the actual gem that glowed in my chest, so that because you can't really stealth around with a fucking giant nightlight on your chest.
Yeah, you're Iron Man. Your arc reactor.
Yep.
So Tim found some good ways to, I would say, cinematically make it be like, oh, okay, this is stuff that Snee can actually do, which was super nice. And I don't think most of the group picked up on some of the stuff that changed, unless I brought it up myself.
And then I think the Baron was just like drinking coffee with their elephant, with Baby Beulah.
Taking Beulah out for a walk, yep.
Yeah, just drinking coffee. Like, oh, you give your elephant coffee, and then it was like, yeah, that's fine. So after the kind of intro, and we find our beloved characters for their first official full episode, what happens next?
What does happen? I have no idea.
There was a lot of stuff that happened. We went back to the speakeasy, and Tim forgot what the password was to his own speakeasy.
Well, that wasn't the first thing that happened. It was they went back to the Manic Donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is where the speakeasy was.
But I thought the speakeasy was the Great Drunkard.
Inside the Manic.
Oh, is that
No.
it? Is that what it is?
It's the Tipsy
Tipsy
Yeah,
Tankard.
read a book. Yeah, don't make me lore dump on you, fool.
I'm a lore dump on you. No, we went back there first, talked to Mav, then went and met up for our actual mission that we
That's
had.
it. Pause the podcast.
No.
All right, we're back now. We just spent the last 3.5 hours listening to the podcast. So
Is this a super long episode?
Yeah.
yeah, it's 3.5
it's like-
hours.
yeah. But no, that's when we got the first mission that Snee was involved in. Because he wasn't technically involved in the first mission of session 0.
Yeah, well, so I know that you go back to the Manic Donkey, and the Xerxes are all there.
We didn't go back. That was our first time going to
Oh, sorry,
Manic
the first
Donkey.
time going there.
And the Zendars.
And the Zendars.
And what's his name? That now I can't remember his name.
Well, there's Frank the bartender,
Not Frank.
because that was a whole thing with Caleb. Because he's like, we're here looking for Frank the Bard. And he's like, Frank the Bard? And then I think Ryan or you were like, no, it's Roger the Bard. And
Roger the Bard.
Well, I know Frank the Bard and Roger the Bard. It was like, oh, God. And he's just like, every time he'd be like, I'm drunk. So the mission, I guess you get from Mavix is to go find Renfrey.
Yes.
And they're at the Manic Donkey.
Yep.
And so, like, you meet Renfrey. And oh boy.
Everything you don't want him to be.
Now, wasn't Renfrey in one of your one-shots?
Yep,
was
that was
prior.
Tim's character that he created for one shot. The one where we intentionally planned on killing him in front of everybody for everyone to freak out like, oh my God, is this going to happen in the regular campaign?
Mm-hmm.
Which it also did happen in the regular campaign.
Yep.
So
Good
there's
old precursor.
So there's a part where you go into the Manic Donkey for the first time, and the Baron introduces himself, and I couldn't make out the name, but he says my name is Baron von Oya or something like that.
Eula.
Eula. So is Eula the Baron's name, or is there more to it?
There's more to it.
There's more to it.
Fuck, I'm gonna get this one of these days. Damn it.
He has a first name. The Baron is just his title.
Okay. Well, I'm slowly getting these little breadcrumbs. I'm gonna get it one of these days. Dang it.
Yep. And I think it's mentioned that his family's in the capital, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Them bitches.
He's got daddy issues.
So they meet. So yeah, I was like, all right, cool. So I got part of the Baron's name. I'm gonna get there one of these days. It's gonna happen. I'm just gonna like go to the capital in the campaign if we ever get back to it, and I'm just gonna read through every book and be like, the Baron, I found him. And they'll be like, well, who's this guy standing here? You know, Enoch comes over and is like, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm Phil. Sorry, I do the podcast. I'm just trying to find out some lore. Gotta go. Some real fourth wall breaking multiverse stuff.
You could just message Caleb.
No. Oh, like use the message spell?
Yeah.
I don't know that as a human.
Oh, well,
I'm
you're
just
out of luck.
I'm just
Sorry.
a human. I'm like a human. I'm just a guy.
I'm just a crazy guy.
Wild and crazy guy.
Well, crazy guy.
So we meet Renfrey. He's a bit much. Which in the one shots prior, we kind of get a little taste of
Renfrey.
of Renfrey. What's that guy about? Why does he put on this air of being
The facade.
of
Being a total badass.
I don't know if that's really a total badass. I think he's just
A dim-witted total badass. That's
like,
the facade he puts on.
well, I know that, but I'm just like, I don't necessarily think he really is like a badass, but he's just like, I can fucking do this. Like internally, this character that he portrays thinks they're a badass,
Yes.
but what he actually portrays is not a badass
Just adequate.
at the beginning.
Well, in our campaign at any point, he was never really a badass.
He was just a buffoon.
He just got the shit kicked out of him every
Yeah.
time. That's pretty much his plot right now.
Yep. I mean, he did okay with the first goblin.
Well, so this is my note. It's Renfrey.
Or
we
the
meet,
troll.
we meet Renfrey, and then I go, surprise, a motherfucking troll.
So Renfrey is a cross of me just being, wouldn't it be interesting to have this rich asshole who thinks he's, kind of all that, and then taking from Parks and Rec's Andy Samberg's character, where he just talks loud all the time.
So just Andy Samberg.
Yeah.
With a little bit of Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah.
Sprinkled in, absolutely, because it just was funny to me. And at this point, I'm still using the Waterdeep book.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is almost one for one. What is supposed to happen in the book is they go to a bar, a troll comes out of nowhere, and you're like a high-level troll, and then you're supposed to give your party ads, basically, to fight off while another, quest giver basically takes down the troll.
Which I also just want to point out, because there's a giant, well in the middle of a bar that a troll just digs its way out of.
Haven't you ever been to a restaurant that has like fish tanks in the floor? That's the vibe I get.
The well was my thing because it wanted the book, and this is spoilers for the book, was a portal.
Oh, okay.
I think the name of the bar is like the something portal.
Gotcha.
And I was like, if I give these chaotic motherfuckers a portal, they're 100%
Going through it. Yep.
the portal. So I was like, I'm going to create a well.
And then later on, he decided to give us a deck of many things.
I can at least control that to a certain degree. Not having to go, What's in the portal? Now I have to create this whole other thing. What's in the portal?
I'm just pulling the first session we get back. I'm pulling straight from a fucking card.
So where did the troll come from?
The well.
From a well, actually.
So in our
From a well,
session,
actually. I'm well actualing you.
I don't get it.
Okay.
buried in the ground.
Well, because you go through the sewer system, and that's where you find.
I guess there
The
is an
bad
actual
guys.
kind of sewer system, but you really wouldn't want your your sewer system to be connected with your well.
Yeah, I'm
wire,
actually
but-
very concerned about this right now because, like, if I'm at a bar and I just see this hole with a grate and I'm just like, what's that smell? And I'm just like, oh, okay.
Well, we did say in this episode that this is like one of the shittiest bars you can go into.
True.
I think I even described it that way.
Yep.
Well, I'm ordering a bottled water when I go into that place. So they fight a troll and some bats with some black slime, similar to the Wolveses. So I think the fight was pretty easily won.
There wasn't the only one who went down was why can't I fucking ever remember his
Renfrey?
name? Renfrey, thank you.
Yeah.
Renfrey was the only one who went down, and he went down in a blaze of glory like Babylon did in session 0 on the last hit.
Yeah.
But all the bats we pretty much cleaned out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And Snee was doing his duck dive, dip dive, dodge,
Yeah.
duck dip, hide.
Well, then it's funny because then Renfrey is back up and everything's done, and then you find out that this whole facade that Renfrey
Is
has
a
put on
facade.
is it's fake. He's kind of smart up there, maybe. So,
That's just me being me, and trying to have an enjoyable character.
Totally fair.
so when are you gonna start doing that?
Oh,
in our campaign Sunday,
Well, maybe. Oh, he's crying.
look what you've done. Now we gotta.
Oh,
all right,
great.
now we gotta
Okay,
pause the game
he's,
again.
He's sick again. All right, pause the episode.
that's
Okay, so now it's
Our-
been 2 weeks.
that's going to be the struggle for Michael's campaign, is keeping up that energy for Renfrey until something happens.
Right. Well, good luck.
Just slam a Monster Energy drink.
Just do some cocaine.
Well, because like you and Brian know me fairly well, Michael, I have interacted with quite a bit.
But he never says hello to you.
No, this other guy, no idea. Yeah.
So we talked to Renfrey. We find out that he's not a total weird. I mean, he's a weirdo, but in a different sense. And his brother's missing.
Roger,
Yep.
the
Bard.
bard.
Not to be mistaken with Frank.
Different bard. Almost as talented.
Not related.
Well, we don't know.
We do know.
Are Frank and Roger related in any way?
Who's Frank?
The bard.
Exactly.
Well, now I'm skipping ahead, but when they go back to the
No, we go.
when they go to the tapping duck, because
Yeah.
that's where. But we can't go into that part. But there's a whole thing about where Caleb gets it confused and he says Frank instead of Roger, and then the musician's like, "I know Frank the Bard," and he's like, "No, Roger the Bard," and so that's where it's at. Come on, know your lore, damn it.
I haven't listened to this episode.
I listened to it today.
It's fine. So Roger's missing, and so then basically the hunt is to find Roger.
Yep.
And so they leave from there and they go to Roger's house,
Covered in purple.
which honestly, kind of my vibe. Like I
Royalty.
love purple.
I
yeah.
mean, it's royalty.
Yeah. But I just put my dream house. They like walk in. It's got like a, very floral scent. A lot of purple things. A heart-shaped bed.
Lots of sex toys.
All completely improv and made up on the spot.
The heart-shaped bed was made up.
Yeah.
The whole Rogers house.
So there was no house before?
Nope.
He's actually homeless?
I didn't think they would want to visit his house. Yeah.
Interesting.
Leave
someone's
leave it to your players to fucking just go off in a completely different direction.
Someone's missing. Where's the first place you look? Not their home for clues. No sign of struggle.
Well,
For some reason, I didn't think that way.
I mean,
Well, and I think because we hadn't heard a storyline of like how he went missing. So what we knew was he went to the Tapping Duck.
Mm-hmm.
Then he left. No. His brother left him there, and then we were like, and then he's like, I didn't see him again. So we were like, well, either he was at the Tapping Duck, or he got home and then was taken from his house.
So yeah, I mean the house wasn't very. They basically got there and they're like, all right, what are we looking for? Okay, we don't really find anything until they left. And then they went to the Tapping Duck, which was like the next thing that was kind of like on the agenda, and that's when we encountered Frank for the first time. Frank the bartender got sassy with Babylon, which shocker.
Shocking.
Or did Babylon get sassy with them first?
I mean, who's to say? But then it was just like, I just work here. I don't know what you want. So I know they talked to a couple of the musicians, and that's where things get a little bit weird. And the whole Frank the bard, or Frank the folk singer, no Roger the folk singer, no Roger the bard. And so they find out about a warehouse with a dragon insignia.
Oh, we also irritated a couple of the bouncers.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
For sure the first one we talked to who
Yeah.
didn't know anything, and
yeah. He's like, I just work here.
Babylon being Babylon, pushing more buttons.
Do you have any notes about the Tapping Duck?
Not really. Just kind of describing what it is. It has a giant wooden duck on it. Yeah, I left a lot of stuff for me to just make up on the spot and improv.
Your sheet just says improv.
Sometimes it really does.
Yeah, I know. That happens. Because sometimes it's like, well, I don't really want every teeny tiny little detail. But, like, I do think that you do spend a lot of time, like, when you start going down that, like, start pulling on that thread, you, like, really add to it. And then it's just like, okay, well, now I got to remember all this stuff. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
And a lot of it is feeling their vibe, what they're feeling, how they're interacting. And then I just make a shift and try to improv or push back or be an asshole back to them.
Yeah. So then they get a lead to go to find a warehouse with a dragon insignia on it.
Yup.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is like when we first really find out about the Zendars.
For the most part.
And there's a whole scene, which it's kind of funny that this group has a whole thing with fences and gates. Because there's a fence and a gate around this place, and what's the first thing everyone does? Oh, we got to scale it.
Mm-hmm.
And then M. Scott's like, I try the gate. And you're just like, it opens. So I'm just like, it's just so funny that, like, because, like, we had that episode where, like, I'm just picturing this gate in
And
the
the
middle of
field.
a field. And Nick's like, no, it's a whole fucking city. What are you doing? So I'm just like, I'm glad that this, from session 1
Right.
to now, like, it's still like, all right, our big bad's the game.
Either you think you can just walk around it, or you're like, I gotta go over it.
Yeah.
Never just like I go through.
Yeah. Who would do that?
I go through the opening that's already there.
I mean, in every movie you watch and everything, or video game you play, it's normally not unlocked. You gotta pick a lock. You gotta go over it. You gotta go under it.
Right.
I wanted to push back against that trope of locked doors because I find it funny to have them do all of this shit and then someone's like, I just try to push on the door. Well, it opens.
Yeah.
That to me is fucking funny.
I also like the reverse ones where someone's like, yeah, I go to lockpick it. They're like, you didn't even let me finish. No, I'm going to pick the lock. Okay, roll. And then you're like, I rolled a nat 20. All right, cool. You actually locked it, and you locked it so good that you're never going to be able to unlock it.
Yeah.
Fuck!
Yeah, you locked it and you broke your tools. That's how good you unlocked it. Or how good you locked it.
Do they get to Sean's trinket and
Oh yeah. So we got
We
like
did. That was towards the end.
so they go to the warehouse,
Fight some Kenkus.
fight some Kenkus, and it's a whole thing because Caleb's like trying to talk to them and he's trying to be like Batman, like talking to him, and Ryan's like, no.
Where is he?
Yeah. And like he's like, Ryan's like, no, Kenkus, because I think at that time he was playing a campaign where he was playing a Kenku, and he was like, no, they can only repeat back what you say to them, and so he's just like going like full Batman on them, and it's just
Well, and at one point they're like, the Kenkus are like,
Tired, pretty boy.
And then they're like, don't loot the place. So then Curtis, of course, was like, well, they said something about not looting the place. I want to look around. And like listening to it, I'm like, obviously they were just repeating what they were told on their original mission, not talking to us.
Yeah.
Because, Kenku's. But, also to not metagame. I
Yeah.
didn't say anything in-game either.
I mean, sometimes it's just like letting it play out is the best way to do it too. Like
Well-
it's hard to like know like encounter a race or class or something that your character would have no idea about, and then
Right.
you're just like, you can't be like, oh, this guy knows he threw fire at me. He's got to be high level wizard or whatever. I know his weakness. You just have to be like, this is fire. This is scary. I just
Right.
got I got to be in character.
Which played out well, because then Tim had Curtis do an intelligence roll, which he failed at. And then Snee over here did an intelligence roll and rolled pretty high. And it's like, you just like Jason Bourne this information. You're like, you know that Kenku's just repeat things that they've heard.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And then so after the warehouse, we have the lovely interaction with the captain of the city guard.
Well, first we found the young lady, Silverhand.
Oh, that's true.
What was her first name?
I don't remember.
You have your notes.
it's DeLuna,
DeLuna, that's right.
because that was the whole thing. Is they found the pillow in Roger's house that had the R and D on
Yep.
it.
Oh yeah.
Do not resuscitate.
Yeah, do not resuscitate. That's actually research and development.
I'm still scrolling through my notes about the Kinkus.
Did we miss anything important with those Kenkus?
I don't believe so.
They're gonna come back later.
Maybe.
I think we killed all of them. No,
undead.
we did tie some of them up, didn't we?
I mean, the city is now on fire.
They're still tied up in the warehouse.
Don't loot the place.
This Kenku's on fire.
I do have a roll initiative. I don't know what for.
For when we
Fought the Kinkus.
Fought the Kinkus.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then, yeah, you meet DeLuna, and she's like, "You know who my mom is?" And we're like, or you guys are like, "Yeah, we know your mom is cool."
I was like, because I didn't have any memories.
True.
Then we meet. We walk out and then meet the captain guard.
Which I swear there's the first time you say his name is Arturus, but then I hear like Atticus, and then I
We're
hear
playing with Ryan.
and then I hear Arctitus, and I'm just like, I don't know.
So
Then we just call him Artie.
Artie.
Yeah, his name is Artemis.
Artemis. Okay, cool. I was just like, there's a couple different ones here. So of course, a figure of authority. What does Babylon do?
Basically spit on them.
Yeah, like. Oh,
Actually, his name is Arturus.
what I said.
Yeah. Yep.
And I have it written down in my notes. You can check. My hands are in the air.
I believe you. But yeah, Babylon picks a verbal fight with Arturus, even though, Captain's Guard, they're going to be watching our every move.
DeLuna does say something about to see if he's metal or not.
That's true.
Really? I don't remember that. Like to see if you're metal.
I think weren't you the one that
I found her.
Yeah, found her.
upstairs, freaking her out a little bit because we didn't know there was a hat of disguise in the Baron's backpack. So we're just trying to cover me up as best we can.
Yeah.
Thank God I had high stealth rolls for the most part. But yeah, and then I even, like, when the guards were coming up, I was like, I'm going to try and stealth away, and then I wasn't even given a chance. So I was like, I'm just trying to cover up my face.
Yeah. So just kind of a fight with Artie. And then the next note I have is sleepy time. I don't think really much happened before sleepy time that I can recall.
They do investigation. They find the book.
Yep.
One
How
of
to
the
Train
books,
Your Dragon.
Ah, yes,
Yep.
yes.
Taming a Dragon 101.
How do you pronounce that in Draconic?
I don't know. They do go.
Someone's gonna be like, "Well, actually," and they're gonna comment and be like, "No, it's
You need a little bit more throat
Yeah.
in there.
Jesus.
No, that's no how you pronounce Jesus in Draconic is Christ.
I just have the conversation with Artemis and DeLuna.
We were officially hired by DeLuna to find her boyfriend, her
Yup.
boo thing, her boy toy.
Which is funny because I feel like you guys wake up and then immediately go to the Great Drunkard.
We do.
You're like, all right, we're up. We're going to the bar.
Well, I mean, it's the easiest centralized location to meet up because me and Babylon were staying in one place, and obviously the Baron had his little chapel that he would go to, and then M. Scott had his own place. So it's like we got to find a central location to meet up at.
So I feel like you go to the Great Drunkard and Mavic's not there, Renfrey's not, like no one's there.
Yep.
So you immediately leave. There's a high perception roll, and you guys stumble upon.
The Trinkets Emporium.
Yeah, Sean's Trinket Emporium.
So they open the door, and out rolls purple smoke and lavender smells. How would you describe this?
I mean, definitely ripping off of Critical Role again.
Oh, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that it's Sean's Trinket Emporium for Sean Gilmore, and then obviously Trinket, which I don't necessarily think that you may have meant it as being the bear, or maybe you did, but I was like, classy.
And
And Caleb's like, yeah, either Roger comes here or Prince.
Yep.
I wanted to make that connection as well with the Purple Room. That maybe they could get some clues out of this guy. And I do believe I had a whole shop for him, which is a D100 of just random garbage.
Yep.
And then somehow dildos were brought up. I don't remember why or how.
We talked about the sex toys we found in Roger's place. So then it just turned into this also had a back sex shop. Like it's like when you go into the thrift shops, there's just junk all around, and then there's the 18 up section, which is all the porn and other.
All right, I need you to tell me what thrift store you're going to.
This is at Lake of the Ozarks. There's a couple of them on the dam.
All right, you gotta.
I'll send
it
you
to
some
me.
Snapchats,
Perfect,
dude.
love it. I'm for it.
Or even like a Spencer's gift, like in the back, there's all the
It's true.
sex toys.
But yeah.
It's like the glow in the dark light, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
just
but the front
Sean's
half-
just covered in stuff. Like,
The front half of Spencer's is at least some stuff that's like actually, T-shirts and other things that you might want to actually buy.
Useless garbage that you would roll a D100 for.
I don't think there's anything in the last 15 years of my life, at least, that would be like, man, I really want to get that from Spencer's.
I've seen hats that have Star Wars stuff on it, or they've got some. They got fuck tons of T-shirts, but
Yeah.
Right.
but it's just at least there's some stuff. But then there's a bunch of other bullshit, and they've got shot glasses and whatnot. If you want to be weird.
Oh, sorry, doing shots are weird, guys. Sponsored to you by Smirnoff Ice.
So the only thing I had written was the D100 of items, and then I think I just took a riff. Oh, they found sex toys from Roger, making Roger a creepy sexual bard because, of course you do. And then
Because it's a bard.
and then going, maybe this guy has a sex shop. You don't know. And
I think I'm gonna play that in one campaign. I'm gonna play a super serious opera singer bard. Be very, very serious the entire time.
that'd be great against type.
Yup.
So that was all improv, just to dildos.
And then Ryan's character, Baby, found a little knife.
Yep.
And
That they named whatever it was.
Little
they
knife.
named- Oh yeah, that's right.
it was
They
a little
named it
knife.
Little knife.
And it was like, how much is it? And it was too expensive. And then Ryan's like, well, I already named it. You won. And they buy the knife.
Yep.
Didn't someone get a bottle, an empty bottle?
That was M. Scott. You first read it off, and he's like, "Oh, cool, a nice bottle of wine." And you're like, "No, it's empty." And he goes, "Oh." So this is all actual junk, and you're like, "Yep."
But I just love that. It's just Ryan to a T. Like, all right, I already named it. I got to get it.
Oh, goodness.
It's like if you want something and you're with Ryan, you just say, "Hey, what would you call that?" And he'd be like, "Oh, I'd call that little dragon thing." And then he'd be like, "Well, now I gotta buy it."
I'm gonna start doing that too everywhere we go.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't listen to the podcast.
Yeah,
And
Ryan, if
you're listening, turn off and actually
after we've already said all this,
hit yourself in the head so you forget all your short-term memory for the last 5 minutes. So he gets a little knife. And then after Sean's Emporium, they go back to the Tapping Duck, and that's kind of a dead end. So I think at that point, Tim, you're kind of like, all right, I'm gonna kind of railroad you guys a little bit, and you're like, check in the sewer. I don't remember exactly how it was.
yeah,
You like were very much like, hey, you should go check over here, or it was like check outside the Tapping Duck, and that's when you encountered the sewer.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I definitely remember that you're like, all right, guys, you're walking around everywhere, which is like kind of interesting because, like, I mean, you know, you are trying to progress a narrative, but some people would literally just let a party walk around forever until they
to a
figure it
certain
out.
point.
Yeah, I mean,
well, because otherwise we're just gonna start railroading again.
no.
Like I have it in my notes. If they don't figure it out, like DeLuna or the captain of the guard tells them, "Hey,"
I think Artie ends up telling them, yeah.
yeah, that's in my notes. If
Yeah.
they can't figure it out, because again, taking from that first time when the troll comes out of the well from the sewers, but no one picked up on that.
But that was completely unrelated to,
Was it?
as far as we know, the black ooze on animals and the Zendars.
How dare you?
I think I had some breadcrumbs sprinkled in.
It was very possible, but we're also just chaotic and non-observant sometimes.
That too. So I've had to railroad sometimes.
Yep.
I mean, that's
fair.
fine. I mean, it happens. Like, sometimes you just got to be like, hey, maybe you want to check that tapestry that's slightly blowing in the wind. I found the X-rated section.
Bunch of dicks.
Bunch of dicks.
Well, and I assume, because I don't remember.
This was also 2 years ago.
Right. Well, I'm talking about, like, because I listened to the episode earlier. I'm trying to remember, like, when we went to the warehouse district and got into that fight. I mean, I would assume that there were probably sewer entrances, but maybe we didn't ask the right questions or we weren't, connecting the right dots. But I would assume if he was there at one point and then taken away from that place, it would have been, there would have been an easier way that they probably moved him into the sewer. But we also decided to go take a long rest because it was super late. So,
Right.
Well, so the part where it's like, Baron's like, all right, we're in the sewer. Which way do we go? And Ryan's like, no, maybe we should go get down in the sewer. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I don't know. I'm drunk. It was like every time it was like, oh, I'm not 100% sure. It's like, oh, I was drunk. It's like, you know what? That's actually great. I'm going to start using that. Like, why are you driving crazy? Oh, I don't know. I was drunk.
you missed your turn. Oh, shit, I was drunk again.
Yeah.
Sir, can you step out of the vehicle?
Oh, I can't. I'm drunk. Which is funny because I haven't had alcohol in like 2 years, so they'd be really confused.
I would just start saying that all the time then.
Yeah, maybe I will.
When you don't have somewhere you need to be. Because they're going to pull you out of the car and make you do tests.
Well, it'd be great because then they'd take me and then maybe I'll walk a little crazy.
I mean, I have it in my notes. DeLuna or the captain of the guard mentioned that the Xerxes hideout is deep in the sewers. And
Oh,
the
it's
guard-
definitely Artie says it.
and isn't a job for them. Also, I have mentioned if the characters didn't learn from the Kinku where they were taken, asking questions of the locals can reveal where they saw them drug off to.
I guess it's another thing, too. A lot of times, either A, we would go out in the middle of the night, or B, no one actually ever talks about, like, oh, yeah, you're on a street that's got a decent number of people. It's just like, all right, we're going to go here. And in actuality, you would assume there would be people out on the street doing stuff, and we could find information. But we never think about it unless we go to an actual NPC that's drawn to our like you walk in, you're like, there's a bartender. All right, I'm gonna go talk to the bartender. There's probably 20 or 30 people in the bar as well. But
That's one of the things I love about Critical Role, and specifically Liam O'Brien, who they'll be just walking down the street and then he'll randomly go, "Hey, you," and then Matt has to make up an NPC on the spot to give them some kind of a detail.
right.
So
That's something that we fail to do a lot.
that's fine.
Yeah, but there's always, you always sprinkle some mysterious thing in there. Keep it in your back pocket when you're like, all right, cool. Well, now you're gonna meet this person.
Who's actually going to murder you?
Yeah, I mean that happened in my campaign of just a random bystander in a bar who was wearing armor, and Ryan and the crew's like, let's pick a fight with this dude. I'm just like, okay, here we go.
All right.
That's another thing that I've seen, like, because sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I make all my bartenders fucking like level 20 retired adventurers of different sorts, so when they want to start shit in bars, because it's what NPCs do all the time, someone's there that can kick their ass. But someone else even brought up, like, what if you started, like, scaling it? Like, if they didn't do shit, it's just a normal bartender. This is what he's done his whole life. It's a family-run business or whatever. But he's like, if they start doing more and more shit in more bars, the bartenders get tougher and tougher and tougher, or they start hiring actual help, like bouncers. I was like, that's actually a good idea. Because then you don't have to do a lot of work if your team, like, if your group's doing good. But then if they are a bunch of chaotic shitheads that like to cause trouble, well, then trouble's going to start causing back.
Yeah, I mean maybe that needs to be like its own little thing, and it could just be like not like the campaign's called "Not in My Bar,"
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
and it's just like that's actually what happens. But like you don't tell them that until like the very end, and then like the big bad is like beer
It's a
fest.
bar. Oh my God.
Das Boot.
That would be great.
And you have to drink the entire time.
Yeah, like in real life. Or
Yeah,
in the game?
Whatever you're drinking in game, you're drinking in real life.
Oh well, lots of water.
You are the DD of our D&D group.
Ah, yes, I drive the carriage. So I feel like that's a majority really of that episode, but it made me think of this thing. So I had a cursed. So in one of our campaigns that I played with my work friends, we had cursed. We went to this like after night market, and so it was all like shifty things like D100. We found this booth that was literally cursed items. One dude got a cursed cloak that was like basically stuck on them and like made them undead. And like you had the undead like status. So if someone used like turn undead on you, you would, feel the effect of it. But I had this little toy carriage. I don't know if you've heard of the ghost carriage. It's like a homebrew item that basically you roll a D8, and I think it's if you roll like a 1, the horses turn into specters and you have to fight them. But outside of that, you basically have like a ghost carriage that will take you anywhere. And so there was this big fight where like there was these giant spiders, and my character was a rogue that was like kill everyone all for themselves. So like they're in the middle of this fight and I'm like, I'm out of there. And so I go and I take off in this ghost carriage, and they're all like, this dude left us. Well, I somehow rolled a persuasion and got the entire like city guard to come with me. So then like the fight goes on, and then all of a sudden I come down the street in this ghost carriage with like a whole army behind me.
Nice.
Funny.
So
Yeah, the whole rest of the session 1 is them fighting in the sewers, pretty much, and they find Roger.
Yep.
yeah,
Beat up.
they fight some goblins.
Some goblins.
All the other fights were easy. That final boss fight, though, was tough for us.
Yeah,
I think I went down like twice. It took a lot for us to take down that one guy, and I think you said he was only like a level 5 character
Something like
that
that.
you made.
but I think it took Baby down like almost a double, like almost to, like the full hell, like took them down and then almost took them all the way to their entire like hit points, which would have made
Which
them
I'm
dead,
honestly
dead.
level 2. That's not hard.
No, not at all. But
You're
like,
looking at like a max health of like maybe 18.
yeah.
Yep, he was a barbarian. Only had 75 hit points.
more
I
than
mean,
all of
when
us
you're
combined.
level
but
2, like
Yeah.
75 hit points, that's a lot.
yeah.
And a barbarian, if they're raging,
Yep.
yeah, if they're raging, like they're taking half damage.
I mean,
so-
magic will hit him in full effect, but
yeah. Well, when magic's illegal,
it's a bad guy.
yeah.
He's also illegal.
Well, I was gonna say, well, no, I'm just saying like magic will do full effect, but since magic's illegal, and the one magic user you had, like actual magic user you had no offensive spells to really use.
Eldritch Blast.
That's it.
Yep.
Like no, everything
I did
else-
have a +1 dagger, so
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, it ended up working out, but it was just like kind of funny that it's just like, cool, a barbarian. You know what's great against barbarian? Magic users. Oh wait, we're in a world where magic's illegal, and our only magic user only has defensive and healing spells.
It depends on like exactly how the Baron was set up. I never like looked at any sessions on what spells he did for any of his stuff. So
Smite, which can be pretty good, but I think you get one. Like
I
Smite
think
at
think
level
Magic
2.
1 or Magic Weapon's level 1 spell, so you can just turn any weapon into a magic weapon. And so barbarians, at least lower level barbarians, are only immune to non-magical slashing,
Yeah.
bludgeoning, and piercing. So if you have any sort of magic weapons, then it doesn't matter.
But it's also Caleb's first time
Right.
player, so
And
you're not
we-
necessarily going to read through everything and see that. And
Right.
You got to focus on I know he was sitting next to you to help him out, but like you're also trying to work through your stuff.
I mean,
and
my stuff was pretty easy, especially
Yeah.
like low levels. It's not hard, but it's also I didn't want to make him feel like I was running his character for him. I wanted him to, be able to look at stuff. And I would tell him, I was like, hey, if you want to go over some good spells to have or anything, I was like, you just you ask me, and I'll help you walk through a couple things. But beyond that, I wanted him, because that's the best way to learn, is to go read over your stuff.
Yeah. When you're like, oh, I need to read my spells, and you're like, oh, I didn't read it, or yeah, like he was like, I cast protection against good and evil, and you're like, it doesn't really apply here, and he's like, oh, and then like when he should have used it, he didn't. He's like,
Right.
oh, that could have been good there. I'm like, yep, that's always how it is. You always use a spell when you don't need it, and then when you need it, it's like, oh, sorry.
Well, and that's the other thing too, because paladins, clerics, druids, all those guys, you can interchange your spells, and wizards, especially if you get like actual like spell books from stuff. Which that's one thing I don't think Sneeze ever actually found is a spell book. Not that I have a whole lot of high level spells, but
Tisk.
yeah. But the nice thing is you can interchange out your spell list after a long rest for some of those characters. So he could have changed things out, and that's one thing I always look at. Like for our campaign, we're getting ready to start up with this other group. I'm going to be a druid, so I can change out spells. So knowing either what we're getting into, I might change some spells up, or just thinking about like what we've been through. If we go through some of this stuff, and I was like, man, this would have been really nice to actually have, I'd be like, all right, this might start being one of my usual.
Yeah.
That's what I do with my cleric.
But sometimes it's like, if you know what you're getting into a battle, but if you're like, well, metagaming, I kind of know what's happening. Like, you gotta sometimes like leave some of things out to wild card, and then sometimes when you're on the path to do something that you're like, all right, this is gonna happen, then a random encounter happens, and then you're like, oh well, throw this out. That's always gonna be
Which
those
random
scenarios.
encounters are always going to be hard to really depict because they're
Yeah.
random encounters.
Yeah.
But like for ours, there's going to be a lot of travel in jungles and stuff, and so, and Michael, when we did Out of the Abyss, he would have us like we actually in that game to start off with actually went out like daily to forage and stuff.
Yeah.
So we had to actually like actively be like, okay, cool, we're getting food, but I'm going to be a druid, so I can make good berries. So I'll be like, well, I can always just do this before I go to sleep, so I don't burn any extra spell slots when I wake up, because they last for 24 hours, and you just need one good berry to last the whole day.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, so we don't have to bring a shit ton of food, and I can do stuff like that, but obviously you have a little bit of food, which even me as a DM, I don't like to be like, okay, you have to make sure you have this many rations. I'll just be like, hey, you just spend this money to get supplies to go out on this adventure. Not be super hardcore.
I used
but
my last spell slot for Goodberry. Oh, we got stabbed to death in the middle of the night. No spells here, sorry.
I will say this is my biggest regret of a session.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, because it was way too long.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like us talking right now. I'm like, well, that's sad.
No. The
Talking
session
about
itself.
session 1.
Session 1. It was just too long. I tried to push things too far.
Well, if it's too long, you can't push it too far. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't.
And I think session 2 was a good kind of pushback against that of shortening them up and tightening things up better.
Well, and we were still trying to get a roll on stuff and figure out how we were going to play as a group. And it was very time dependent, too, on when we did our sessions.
Yep.
But, you know, especially like weekdays, we're like, all right, well, we're not going to go till fucking 11 o'clock. But I think that was a Sunday. And so we were like, all right, well, we can spend. I mean, we were here for.
Like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
That's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I also, you know, it depends a little bit, too, on what you're doing in that session. I think, like, the trying to find clues, not a whole lot of combat, when you're just kind of doing monotonous stuff and you don't feel like you're progressing much, it's a long time. If you're doing some good RP and everyone's having a good time, I don't think those matter on how long it is. And if you're not doing the same combat all the time, but even combats, when, like, very heavy sessions of combat can get very, like, extended out too long and kind of just, like, slow rolling, and you're like, oh man, like we're just slugging through the muck now.
Yeah. Session 0. Well, this is going to be XP based. All right, going to go out and XP farm. I stab a villager.
Oh, what was I was watching something, and it was like the adventuring party meets another adventuring party, and they're like, yeah, like they only have like these creatures, and it's like rabbits, like goblins and something else, and like rats as what they've killed. And they're like, but they've got like 80,000 of confirmed kills on these creatures, but it's only these 3 creatures. Like, they're just fucking XP farming.
Absolutely.
We should do that in Michael's campaign.
Is it XP based?
Yep.
Nice. Love it.
It'll be great.
Totally going to abuse it.
100%.
Michael, if you're listening, hit yourself in the head so you can forget the last 2 minutes.
So I've been sending him stuff online, like either Facebook or Instagram, just like
Butt pics.
DM tips and
All the shit
ways
that
to
you
run
would send me.
Yeah. Some of which, well, yours was more like, hey, here are like really cool like potential ideas to put in your campaign. These are more like practices for a DM to make like the sessions better. So like how to work with X kind of players, or how to, you know, look at stuff, or like some house like homebrew rules. But since he's doing his off a book, I'm not like, oh, here's all these other cool little tips and tricks you can throw in there. I sent more of those to you, which also tended to be more curses and bad things to us.
Yeah.
But just because you're doing your own thing, I was like, oh, this pertains more to Tim.
Yeah.
Right.
Where with Michael, I'm like, oh, these are some cool like homebrew rules, or, you know, good ways to get everyone like more involved and have a good time and kind of level things out. So I think that's another reason why he kind of wants to do an in-person for the first session, is he's going to introduce some homebrew rules that he's like, I would like to try these out, see how they go, and if we don't like them, we can take them out later. But
He's bringing back the Thaco rules.
Yeah, session 1 is super long. I should have cut it down.
Well, it was still fun. It was good. Fortunately, you had a good party to keep it entertaining, because, you know, those chuckle fucks are just always doing wild things, and so
wow,
you know, you improv, you know, a lot of the stuff, and like they rolled with it. So kind of talking about like last session, we were talking about the yes ending. Like, yes ending is probably the biggest success that this party has ever had, because they just roll with it.
100%. I can't wait to talk about like session 2. I think that's the one with the house,
yes, that's when we get the deed to the house.
right? Am I right?
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ooh.
So we get to the deed of the house, and that's the first time that Valerie has a little cameo, I believe.
Is it?
Oh yeah, because in between 1 and 2, there are a couple people out, and so there's a one shot. So Valerie plays in the one shot, and then has a cameo.
Yep.
In the second session.
I vaguely remember that because Caleb was out.
Yeah, Caleb was out. I think me and Caleb were both out. What would have been the next episode that we did.
Yep.
So then you guys did a one shot. And then Caleb was out again the following week. So Valerie stepped in again to play just so we have like our full party. When we have the deed to the house, we go to check it out, and we're supposed to be laying low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really starts to pick up with the chaos after session 1.
That's when Defina shows up.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't wait to talk about the whole drug dealing thing that happened
Well,
with
I
M.
like-
Scott and the Baron.
I also love Defina's introduction to the group because it was perfect.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for next week where we talk about session 2.
Hey.
How to be a drug dealer,
How to be a drug dealer, how to own a house.
which is hard sometimes.
When there-
You got to fix things on your own.
Yeah, dude.
when there's bandits and stuff.
We're talking IRL.
I think I did title it This Old House for session 2. I don't remember. Love you, bye!
Bye.
Bye.